Hey, so if you finished reading Act 3 Scene 1 and you listened to it and you watched the movie scene, you probably have come to the conclusion that you got a pretty good idea what's happening in this scene, even if you don't know all the words. You're probably focusing on the ones that you do know. And here's what you do know, I bet. That Benvolio pleads with Mercutio about finding some more secluded place to hang out. Let's get out of here. There's Capulets who are around. If we run into them, there's going to be a fight. And of course, the prince has said, no more fighting. No more fighting. And it's a hot day. It gets the mad blood stirring. People get overworked and all worked up when it's hot out. This is, of course, according to Benvolio. And while they're quibbling, the Capulets confront the two on the street. And because he knows he can do it, Tybalt talks some smack by suggesting that Romeo and Mercutio are in some sort of romantic relationship. I think Tybalt just knows that saying something like that is going to get into Mercutio's head and get him even more fired up. Kind of works. Anyway, I don't know why, but a newly married Romeo turns up in this public place. Probably because he and Juliet can't yet announce their marriage. The priest is probably looking for the right time to tell the families, oh, I just married your kids. I know you hate each other, but I just married your kids. I don't know how they're going to take that. But anyway, Romeo and Juliet aren't hanging out immediately after their wedding. There's some things that need to get worked out. An announcement has to be made. And what a coincidence. Romeo seeks out his boys to hang out with. They don't know a thing. Tybalt doesn't know a thing. Mercutio, Benvolio, nobody really knows anything. And an angry Tybalt, who is looking for Romeo anyway, is like, oh, this is perfect. I was looking for you anyway. I don't even care about Mercutio. Anyway, Tybalt, he's got a nickname. He's known as the Prince of Cats. Sometimes the King of Cats, you'll hear it. He confronts Romeo. This is the exchange between them. Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better turn than this. Thou art a villain. And probably you saw this word here in the footnotes of the text that we were reading, and he essentially just calls him like a dummy head. You're a dummy head. Is that how you spell dummy? That looks so weird. He calls him a fool, a goon, a dork. And Romeo talks about the reasons that I have to love you. Of course, he can't talk about those reasons just yet, but now they're cousins. Tybalt and Romeo are cousins. Romeo says, Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. I'm no villain, therefore, farewell. I see thou knowest me not. You don't know me. You don't realize I'm your cousin, and I can't say anything, but I'm going to walk away right now. And Tybalt's like, He says, boy, calls him boy, this shall not excuse the injuries that thou hast done me. And immediately he's like, get your sword out. And of course, the injury is that he showed up at the party. And Tybalt was under the impression that Romeo was there just mocking Capulets. He snuck into this. He crashed this party. He's wearing a mask. And Tybalt can't get over it. He's got a bit of a temper. T for Tybalt. T for temper. And Romeo, still trying to walk away, he's like, I protest, I never injured thee. And then he uses all these words that maybe makes Tybalt think that Romeo's still mocking him. He says, but love thee better than thou canst devise, till thou shalt know the reason of my love, and so good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as mine own, be satisfied. Talking about Romeo's love for Tybalt. I love you, Tybalt, even though you can't understand it. And then he says, the Capulet name is a name that I value as dearly as the Montague name. Just let this go. Be satisfied. Problem is that there are other people there. And while Tybalt might think that Romeo is mocking him, Romeo is actually being sincere in this scene. They're cousins now. Mercutio, though, thinks that Romeo is being a wimp. Mercutio knows that Tybalt had sent a challenge to Romeo's house, that they were going to fight. And he says to Romeo, even though it's different in the film, Mercutio is not going to submit to Tybalt, who splashes him with the water. That doesn't happen in the play. That only happens in the movie. But he's mad at Romeo, and he's like, oh, calm, dishonorable, vile submission. Thinks it's disgusting that Romeo's just submitting to Tybalt. So he's going to take matter into his own hands. And angry at Romeo's vile submission, Mercutio fights Tybalt in the street, despite the prince's promise of death to the next offenders of the peace. Romeo, trying to break up the fight, restrains Mercutio, who, without the use of his arm or sword, is pierced by Tybalt. And he falls. Here's some lines. I'm hurt. A plague on both your houses. I am sped. And then he asks the question because Tybalt has left the stage. Is he gone and has nothing? Like he's not hurt at all? And of course Mercutio, talking about the two houses here, he curses them. Benvolio's like, what, are you hurt? And then Mercutio, trying to play it off like, it's not that bad. The ever jokester says, it's a scratch, a scratch. Of course, he gets a scratch from the King of Cats. It's just a scratch. Marry 'tis enough. It'll do. Romeo tells him to man up. Can't be that bad. And Mercutio's like, no, it's not as deep as a well, or as wide as a church door, but 'tis enough. 'Twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. Get it? Grave man. He's a jokester all the way up to his death. He's peppered. Like food is ready, and you put the pepper on it. It's ready to go. Next thing, all you have to do now is just eat it. He's done. I warrant for this world. And again, he curses the houses, a plague on both your houses. Zounds, a dog, a rat, a mouse, a cat. To scratch a man to death. King of Cats, he's just been scratched to death. A braggart, a rogue, a villain that fights by the book of arithmetic. Word on the street is that Tybalt is a very mathematical fighter. And then he asks Romeo, why the devil came you between us? I was hurt under your arm. Romeo doesn't know. I don't know. I was trying to break up the fight. I thought all for the best. And then Mercutio turns to Benvolio, asks him to help him into some house before he faints here right on the streets. I think he knows he's going to die, though. He says, they've made worms meat of me. Those two houses, a plague on both your houses. I have it. He's going to die. He knows it. He and Mercutio and Benvolio leave. And then for some reason, I don't know why, but after Tybalt had left, the furious Tybalt returns. And this is where Romeo realizes, I gotta stand up for my buddy. Mercutio's dead. He doesn't return. Romeo says, alive in triumph and Mercutio slain, away to heaven, respective lenity. And then it's fire-eyed fury that's gonna be my conduct now. And he says, now Tybalt, you may remember that Tybalt called him a villain earlier. He's like, take that back. You deserve that title. And in this case, he's not calling Tybalt like a goon or a dork or a goofball. He's actually calling him a villain. He's killed Mercutio. He says, take that villain back again that late thou gavest me, for Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him. In other words, one of us is going to die, or maybe both of us are going to die, but we're going to fight, because that was my friend. Of course they're going to fight. They fight. Tybalt is killed. And shoot, the prince said no fighting. What's Romeo going to do? He flees. He's got to go, he's got to go, he's got to go. I don't know. He's just got to hide. I don't know. The princess is going to be mad. So's Lady Capulet. Her nephew's just been killed. Granted, he killed somebody before that, but she's mad, and she wants justice. She's upset at the death of her nephew. And she tells the prince, these are great lines right here. She says, I beg for justice, which thou prince must give. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live. And of course, they run through this. Both families kind of argue their sides. Like, well, Tybalt killed Mercutio, and then Romeo killed Tybalt for killing Mercutio. Romeo just did what the law was going to do, which was to execute Tybalt. The prince is like, yeah, that makes sense. So here's what I'm going to do. And he decides to banish the newly married Romeo from Verona, meaning, don't come back here. Don't you come back here, or suffer the consequences. And as you can see, Shakespeare has thrown quite the wrinkle into this love story. Oh, here's where it becomes a tragedy. 2 people are dead, 1 from each side. And that's Act 3, Scene 1.